Morning. I'm down at the local woods with the dogs and I wanted to talk to you about knives for UK hiking and camping. This is not going to be about the whole bushcraft thing, even though I'm down in the woods. The dog's just barking at a pheasant. This is about kind of hiking and camping, and it's a personal opinion about what I like to use and what I find practical. So I'm dividing it up into UK legal, folding knives and fixed blade knives. I'm going to score them for weight, which is kind of practicality, function, and the, how can I put this, the oh yeah factor. So there's the confession, the disclaimer. I like knives, but this is not about glorifying knives, it's about the practical use. I teach knife safety and knife care to my local cub pack where I'm a leader, and if anybody starts to talk about stabbing somebody, anything like that, they get cut down pretty quick. So I don't mean cut down, that's metaphorically. It's difficult with knives, but this is about kind of like practical use for camping. So typical uses you might have for hiking and camping is going to be food prep, undoing packages, cooking, turning your meat, sometimes into a very kind of like small fire. So yeah, so I'm going to get myself comfortable and put a brew on, make a little bacon sandwich, and we'll have a chat about part of my collection and the qualities of each one. And at the very end, I'll talk a little bit about knife care and sharpening, what I use perhaps out in the field or a kind of base camp on holiday type thing, and what I do at home. So hope you enjoy it. It's a really nice morning. Hope things are going good for you. So yeah. So this is just a little device made out of an IKEA utensil rack thing. So I can have a little alcohol burner in there for my brew, and then afterwards I can use it for my bacon sandwich for a little twig fire. Just a little thing about UK knife law. So what the law states is it is illegal to carry in a public place any knife with a blade longer than 3 inches, which is 76.2 millimeters, and that's either locking or non-locking, so a fixed blade knife. And if that blade is under 76.2 millimeters or 3 inches, it has to be of a non-locking variety. So I've just got a sprinkling here just to clarify that. So the rather mad Lansky Mad Rock is under 3 inches and is non-locking, therefore is UK legal, as is the Lansky World Knife, non-locking. But this tiny little Murrah is a fixed blade under 3 inches and therefore would be non-legal unless I had good reason. And then if we look at something like the Ontario Rat 1, so this is just over 3 inches and is locking, so clearly not legal. So good reason means if you were a carpenter doing work outside a shop, you would have good reason. If you were a chef traveling to work and you kept them secure, that would be good reason. So I would say me being down the woods here, preparing some food, making a video, or if I was camping or hiking would be good reason. But you've got to be sensible. So my best advice is if I'm going anywhere in public, so out with the kids, perhaps popping into Sainsbury's, I always make sure that I've just got a legal UK carry, and I carry one every single day, and I find it incredibly useful for cutting knots out of the kids' hair, lunchtime, kind of peeling stuff. I just use one all the time. So if you've got one in your pocket, it's incredibly useful. So if I was going camping or hiking and using something a little bit more substantial, when I was in a public place, car park, in the town adjacent to the camping area, this would either stay in the tent or would be securely left in the car or in a rucksack or bag, out of public sight until you have to use it for good reason. So that said, you know, I've used knives a lot. I've got a scalpel in my hand most of my working day. I always carry a kind of like a small penknife, and my excuse is I've just never left the Scouts really, and that's why I help out with our local cubs now. But having said that, I've got a first dan in kendo, which is big boys pretending to cut each other with pretend swords, and that's tremendous fun. But we're consenting adults not threatening each other, and that's what it's all about, just having fun. Great. So whilst we're waiting for this bacon to cook, let's get into the first lot of knives. I think the dogs are really waiting for the bacon to cook really, so I'm sure they'll get some. Okay, so UK legal knives. So first up is the Higo Nakami. You describe this as a friction folder. These are all UK legal. Japanese paper steel. So weight for this one is 37 gram. It's the lightest knife in my collection and eminently practical. It's a great little cutter. One thing I don't like about it for camping and food prep is there's the potential for this to kind of fill up, and the blade's not very deep. So the oh yeah factor is pretty good because it's such a nice little knife, not very comfortable to hold, but I would rate this one as usefulness 3 out of 5. Next up is the Boca Plus extra small satin. This weighs 73 grams. Now this has been modified slightly because I managed to snap the tip off. So practicality wise, it's a really nice little knife. It tends to stay pretty secure, but as I mentioned, it's a little bit weak. The blade's very thin, so I don't trust it very much. Very light duties, it's okay, and it's nice to hold. Oh yeah factor, yeah, pretty good. Oh yeah, but overall for UK hiking, I would rate this as a 4 out of 5. So next up is the Boca Plus Subcom, and this weighs 62 grams, and this is the knife I'm currently using for backpacking because it's small enough to fit in my really small elk kit coot set, and it's a friction folder. It's got a fairly slim but tough feeling blade, and it has this nice little, I doubt if it's Kydex, I think it's just plastic sheath thing, so you could carry it around your neck out of the way if you wanted to. Quite a nice little knife. So practicality wise, it's a little bit small. So if you want to cook, so let's say for instance if I wanted to get in this fire here, I'm going to kind of like struggle a little bit. My hands are actually in the food there. So practicality wise, not that great. The oh yeah factor is, oh yeah, I like the knife. But overall, because of the very small size, even though I am carrying it at the moment, I would give it a 3 out of 5. So next up is the Ford Peasant. So this is a friction folder. Now, just to clarify this wasn't UK legal until I modified it. So I cut a little bit away here to make it under 76mm. And it's a beautifully light knife. This weighs 48 grams, so super light really. So lighter than this. It's got G10 scales and stuff. This is just a plastic handle, and they're pretty inexpensive, these, and they sharpen beautifully. So this was a present for my kids. So practicality wise, absolutely up there. Oh yeah factor, you know, it's a bit of an ugly lump. It's just oh yeah factor, I would just give it a 2. But overall, for UK hiking, a 4. You can buy a cheap little sheath for it. Lovely and light, a little bit bulky in your pocket if you actually want to carry in your pocket. There is the mini version available that's a little bit smaller, and plastic handles, cheap as chips. Possibly a risk of food getting in there, but yeah, great knife. So next up is the Lansky World Legal. So a bit of a lump. This weighs 125 grams. So practicality wise, it's very good because it's got a very sturdy lock to it, absolutely excellent, and it's not too stiff that you can't get the thing open. So it's a little bit of a pull, which helps to make it safe. The only thing I don't like about it is I've got this very sharp now, but personally I found it very tough to sharpen. Megan, hush. Dog's growling at somebody walking past on a different path. Shh. Yeah, so the OER factor for a UK legal, I would give this a 5. It's a lovely knife. It's kind of good in the hand. All of these Lansky ones are designed by Michael Williamson, and it's big enough to be able to cook with. So I think the bacon is actually ready for turning now. So I'm quite happy in this small pan to actually use that. Pretty good. The blade is long enough to be able to use that without getting any food contamination into the mechanism itself. So I'll just put that there. And then we've got, that you saw before, sorry about this, just get this tripod sorted out. So we've got the Lansky Madrock. Great present for my son, weighs 83 grams. Practicality is really low with this one. It's comfortable in the hand, it's got a good locking mechanism, but this blade shape, other than when you saw me cutting the ferns before, yeah, rudely interrupted there by barking dogs. So the oh yeah factor is good if you like that blade shape, but for practicality for UK camping, I'll give it a 1 or a 2. Not massively practical. Get the bacon off there. And then finally, it was here all the time. So now this is the Boca Plus World Legal. It's a lovely knife. It's pretty heavy. It's 100 grams. So in this collection, the only one more heavy is this one that's 125 grams. Osade steel, not bad. It's quite a thin hollow grind, not a super strong knife. But what is super strong is the retention of the blade, the slip lock. So I had to put this aftermarket stud on here to be able to open it. So that's a good safety factor, but the thumb stud isn't practical at all to actually get the thing out. It's dangerous actually trying to get hold of that with a thumbnail. It's really, really hard, so you need that on, and I think that reduces the practicality of it quite a lot, because when you're slicing through things, you've got this thumb stud thing here in the way. So a really, really nice knife to have, but not eminently practical. So for UK camping, and it's quite heavy, I would give this a 3. So overall, for me, the winner in the UK camping category in UK legal is a toss-up between the Forward Peasant and the Landscape World legal. Probably the Forward Peasant would have it really, but as I said, for lightness and compactness, I'm currently using that one. But at the moment, kind of winter camping, I'm not doing a lot of cooking, it's just opening packets of something to eat stuff and stuff like that. But you know, there's no easy answer with this. I'll keep swapping them around all the time. I'm just sharing my opinion of these particular knives. So I think it's bacon sandwich time actually. I think that looks pretty ready. And then after that, we'll get on to the folding knives. Brilliant. You know, I just forgot one. Found it nestling in the bracken. This is a Tailor's Eyewitness carbon fibre. It was a present from my brother. It's a really nice little knife, but it's very kind of like traditional. We call it the lamb's foot handle shape. They're quite popular, this kind of knife. I actually don't like them very much because I find the blade far too small and not deep enough really for most tasks. It's nice. It's nice. It's a polite little knife, but kind of like not ideal. So it only weighs kind of like 58 grams. But practicality wise, I'd score it just a 2. Sorry about that, I forgot about that. So I never spend crazy amounts of money on knives, because just exactly for that reason. I have lost the odd one in the past. I think I lost one. It was kind of like maybe £50 this knife, a Bocco Wasabi, really nice knife. So yeah, I wouldn't spend too much. Come here then. Come. Bacon sandwich, 5 out of 5. Right, next we're into folding locking knives. Non-UK legal to carry in a public place, but some of them eminently practical for camping. I have got more than this, but I bought a selection that represents a range. So this one I've had for kind of 30 years or something. It's just a real cheap, light folder. Only weighs 42 grams. And it was about a tenner. It's unbranded. It just says Ross Frey, I think, which means stainless steel. So yeah, a little bit of a back lock there, fairly sturdy, bit of a serrated tool. So I would rate this as practicality as 3, just because it's a little bit short. The oh yeah factor 2. Cheap plastic scales, a little bit flimsy, but eminently suitable for UK camping. Now a lot of people will be shouting out for Swiss Army knives, and I know there are a great deal of variations. I think I've had this one for 35 years, something like that, so it's lasted well. This was my solo camping knife for a long time. It's got a lock on it, and it weighs 92 grams, but what you have to take into account, it's got a host of other tools, corkscrew, bottle opener, screwdriver, not a lot of tools to it, but nice practical knife. I lost, oh no, still at the tweezers, perhaps I replaced them and they're kind of like jammed in there now. Yeah, so pretty good. So practicality wise, I've got to give it a 4, but I don't like the blade, not deep enough for me.
I was using this for backpacking kind of like quite a lot, but it's kind of gone out now. So what I'll tend to do instead is I always have a blade, but I tend to have some sort of other multi-tool with me as well. So this is a Leatherman Squirt S4. Got a few little bits and bobs on there. These are my house keys, so a torch, whistle for the dogs, multi-tool. So that would always go with me anyway. So perhaps I don't need all those tools, but nice to have. So next is the Ontario Rat 1. This weighs 124 grams, so we're starting to get quite heavy, and you're starting to get into that category. Do I really need to bring this? You know, it's a little bit weighty. But practicality wise, 5, a nice long blade. It's a flat grind, which I like, as opposed to the hollow grind. A liner lock, and the blade's long enough not to have to get in the food, and it's a fairly simple mechanism as well. So pretty easy to clean, really, and an attractive life. So I would say that we're getting into some oh yeah factor now. So for this type of knife, an oh yeah factor 4.5, yeah, it's up there, you know, nice and quick and easy to use, not too heavy. So next we've got a CRKT M2104G, very militaristic looking, not something I would get out in public at all. So this is pretty beefy, weighs 124 grams, got G10 scales and a flipper action. This double lock mechanism on there. So practicality wise, from the blade perspective, it's really very good. It's beefy, there's a tiny bit of play in there, but this mechanism is kind of like fairly complicated, and it's a little bit heavy. So for UK backpacking, hiking, I'm going to give it a 3.5. The oh yeah factor is 5 totally. I love that clunk. It's oh yeah. And next we have the Lansky Responder, another Williamson design. Pretty heavy, this. 220 grams, so we're well into kind of like big fixed blade category here. Really thick scales on it, beefy knife. It does work as a flipper as well, but it's got a pocket clip, but if you put this in your pocket, you really feel it kind of like starts to dig in. But if you want a knife for kind of like robust tasks, you're gonna kind of make wooden tent pegs, you want to kind of pound something into submission with that heavy kind of pommel, come lanyard hole on the end, and you like the flipper action, it could be for you. I don't tend to take this camping. It's a nice knife, but it's kind of far too heavy. So suitability for me, for UK hiking and backpacking, I'm going to give it a 2. The oh yeah factor is a 4. It's a nice knife, but just too heavy. And we get into a little bit of a weird category with this one here. This is the Magnum Kukri. So a great big long blade, 194 grams, weighs 26 grams less than that Lansky, as previously mentioned. It's you can use this for kind of chopping, and I think we're getting slightly over into the kind of like bushcrafty category now. So if you wanted to do some light wood preparation or a little bit of fine carving there, and you want something long for cooking, you've got a little bit of a multi-purpose tool here. So practicality wise, if you're getting slightly into the woodland kind of category, I'd rate this as a 4. The oh yeah factor, I would give it a 3.5, 4, and that kind of like takes into the kind of quality a little bit as well. What I don't like about it is it's a little bit, there's no retention here and lock, and it's a great big long thing. So I've taken this woodland camping, but I wouldn't take it UK hiking and backpacking. I've kind of used it if we're on a picnic before for food preparation. It's big enough to kind of like do melon and stuff like that. I've certainly used it for that in the past. So we're finished now with the folding knives in this little selection. So which would I take, UK hiking or camping? the Ontario Rat one, really. But having said that, if I really want to go lightweight, I think I'm going to put this in another time and try this a little bit. Again, there's no easy solution. You've got to vary it from task to task, how light you want to be, duration that you're going to be away, and which one you just feel like taking, which one you like. Okay, fantastic. So now we're going to get into the fixies. Right, last lap, people. Thanks for sticking with me. So we've got into the big boys now, fixed blade knives. So we're going to start off with this tiny little one, the Mora Eldris. Only weighs 76 grams, a little bit dirty, sorry about that. Practicality wise, I'm going to give it a 2, because even though it's nice and compact and it's nice and light, I just find this length of blade not really very useful at all. It's not long enough and practical enough for kind of cooking purposes. You can just open packets and do fine work, but I'm not doing any carving or anything like that. The oh yeah factor is oh yeah, because it's a nice attractive knife, but not eminently practical. So next we've got a type of knife. This is a Mora 860, I believe it is. So it's in their craft line category. Nice plastic sheath, pretty damn light, 100 grams. So I think around the 100 to 150 gram mark is the maximum you really want to go for hiking and backpacking, to be honest, and this is well in that category. And the thing about the Moras is with this Scandi grind, you can get them beautifully sharp, very, very easy to keep clean, especially with this plastic sheath. They're quick to use, and if you're using a stove, not recommended in a tent, this is the sort of thing you want lying around there. Just grab it like that in case you need to do a kind of fabric-based emergency exit. So the oh yeah factor with this is just a 3. Practicality, I would give it a 5. Eminently practical, nice long blade. So yeah, I have taken this and similar UK backpacking, so this is definitely a forerunner. So next up is the Cold Steel Tanto Light. So I think you know what this is going to be on the oh yeah factor. The weight is 181 grams, and by the way, on these fixed blade knives, all these weights include the sheath. So it's a very slim, described as a kind of like a boot knife. It's a hollow grind, which I'm not super keen on, but a lovely shape and really, really easy to keep sharp. Kind of very, very practical knife, despite its kind of militaristic, kind of samurai kind of look to it. So practicality, I'm going to give it a 4.5 because it's like a little bit heavy. The oh yeah factor is a 5 in this category. Love this knife, I've used it a lot. So kind of like barbecues and stuff like that, I've used it. So next we've got the Cold Steel Outdoorsman Light. So this knife is 221 grams, including the sheath. It's a beautiful knife. It's absolutely lovely. So practicality wise, I'm gonna give it a 4 because it's eminently practical. It's losing that extra point because it's long. It's for most tasks you've got that long leverage of the blade. I can't remember what it is exactly, but it's approaching something like 6 inches. It's a big old knife, but nice to have. The oh yeah factor with this in this kind of like category of knife, I would give it a 4.5. So I would only use this if I want to do some heavy duty cooking. So if I was really going to kind of roast something big, I had large sections of meat to cut, that sort of thing. I wanted to do some kind of like heavy prying. I wanted a good, robust, all-round knife. I would take that. UK hiking and backpacking in ordinary use when you're making dehydrated meals, not terribly practical. This one is the Mora Cansball For a Mora knife, you know, this one, the 860s, they're about a tenner. These are more like 40 odd pounds, so I think they're a little bit overpriced for what they are. And this weighs 126 grams, so it's pretty light. It's got a really nice dangler sheath on it with good retention in there. You can take that off if you like. It slides off. It's got this kind of like dual shaped blade with a thicker part at the back and a slimmer part at the front. Again, really easy to sharpen, and it's a nice length. Practicality wise, I'm going to give this a 5 because for the fixed blade it's really easy to keep clean. It's nice and long, very quick and easy to use, stays super sharp. The oh yeah factor, it's a bit green, isn't it? Oh yeah, I'll give it a 2. Next we're getting into kind of like the more kind of like traditional all-round sort of knives, kind of you might think of the kind of heavy full knives. This is a steel will Druid 200, weighs 344 grams, not really kind of heavy enough for chopping, although it's got a bit of chunk to it, but a beautifully made knife with a flat grind on it, real easy to keep sharp. A leather sheath, I'm not sure how practical that is for camping because I'm kind of like thinking food, but as an all-round general purpose knife, getting into the woodland camping category, really pretty good. A dangler sheath, which is very nice, kind of decent pommel on the bottom, lanyard hole, all around kind of like pretty good. Practicality wise for UK camping, it's a 2 really. Big old boy. I wouldn't take this hiking and backpacking. I have used it more on kind of like general purpose camps. I think this was more of a kind of like nice to buy knife rather than thinking of any particular kind of like practical purpose for it. And then finally, this isn't about kind of like bushcraft woodland sort of stuff, this video. This is about hiking and backpacking, but I just wanted to mention this one because I've got a number of blades, kind of like heavy machetes, light axes, that sort of thing. So I was on the search for years for that kind of like decent hybrid knife, and this is a K-bar Warthog. So I've used this for battening. This is what I take with me when I'm instructing the cubs in battening work and kind of making tent pegs and stuff, because I can trust this with a cub after careful instruction and close supervision, of course, because it's heavy enough. It's really tough. You can trust it. I mean, I'm battening once. I broke a really nice SOG Jungle Formula, which was an expensive knife. I got it replaced by SOG. They were really good, but yeah. So this is a K-bar Warthog, weighs 529 grams. Practicality, when we're getting into the woodland type thing, I would give the blade itself a 5. The sheath, even though it sits like that quite nice, isn't great because it's not terribly balanced. So what tends to happen is, if you haven't got that top bit done up, it tends to kind of tip down like that, which is not perfect. Cool, so that's at the end of the fixed blade category. So I would say the winner for me in this fixed blade category for UK camping has to be this one, closely followed by this one, and closely followed by the Cold Steel Outdoorsman Light. I think there is space for another one in my collection. I'm thinking of another one kind of like real soon, to be honest. Great, so back from the woods. Hope you enjoyed that. I just wanted to have a very quick overview of what I use for sharpening. So at home I use the Lansky Master's Edge. It's got 2 rods, one of which is coarse and one of which is finer. I tend to use these ones all the time, and there's one that's triangular shape for serrated edges. I keep it clean with a rubber I keep underneath because deposits tend to build up in there. So I like a rod system because it's quite useful for blades that have got a substantial recurve on, so you can kind of like get in there like that. It's got a little guard on it. So I noticed this Druid is not
So the idea is you just keep it vertical like that, and you can choose between 17 degrees, 20 degrees and 25 degrees. So 17 degrees would be very small sharp knives or really fine kitchen knives. General purpose, I tend to go for kind of like 20 degrees. So once I've got it pretty sharp on that, I've got a little homemade stropping board here. Give it a few goes over that each side, and I find that gets a kind of like a great edge on. So what I tend to do is, this is kind of a bit of leather that's furry side up, if you like, back side up. So this is jeweler's polishing compound. Just every so often just freshen that up a little bit, and away we go again. So if I've got any deposits on anything, I tend to use this Gary Flex block. It's a fine grit rubber effectively. So there's one or two very fine deposits on here, just kind of like scummy sort of marks. So give a little bit of a rub and a polish with that, and that gets them off kind of quite nicely. So it's quite good for sticky little deposits, very fine bits of corrosion. So if I'm away on holiday or like a base camp kind of thing, I tend to take this workshop field sharpener with me. So it's not terribly practical for large blades like this, although you can manage. It works much better with something like the Ontario Rat one. So it's not too expensive. I think you get kind of like quite a lot for the money with this. There's a coarse diamond stone, a fine one, and then there's a stropping side to it, plus a ceramic rod that you can rotate with different settings, and a little hook sharpener there, I believe that's for. So pretty light, effective tool. And then if you really need to take something camping with you, and I wouldn't do normally, because you know you can sharpen your knife before you leave, but I quite like this Smith's mini sharpener, I believe it's called. So there's a ceramic bevel in there and a carbide bevel, and they're pretty effective really. So you just run that through there, but I actually would generally prefer just to use that mini rod on it. Okay, so there's an overview of the knives I use for hiking and camping. I hope you've enjoyed this. Like and subscribe if you want to. I'm really pleased. Recently I've gone past 100 subscribers, which is pretty cool. So yeah, thanks very much, and let's all look forward to doing a winter camp. Cheers, bye.